Hey guys, Paulie from the Complete Personal Trainer Podcast. Hope you're all having an awesome day. So today we're going to be talking about a very commonly used programming topic, particularly, or programming tool, particularly used in the world of hypertrophy and strength training. And that's the use of RPE and RIR. So let's go first over a definition, how they're most commonly used, some of the drawbacks to it, and what I recommend. So the first thing is RPE stands for rate of perceived exertion. It's taken from the Borg scale, which is traditionally used for measuring effort in cardiovascular activity. It was a scale from 6 till 20, I believe. It didn't start at 0, and like 6 was like going for a walk, and 20 was like sprinting at full capacity. And so that's what RP was, and it was taken into strength training to work out the rate of perceived exertion, how hard a set was. Another way to measure it is reps in reserve. So reps in reserve means how many reps that you have left in the tank at the end of a set. So if you have a RIR of 2 reps in a set, what should generally happen is if you say you need to do 10 reps at 2 RIR, pick a weight that you can do 12 times, that would be it. Now, it's most commonly used in bodybuilding, like hypertrophy type training, as a way to periodize intensity. So over the course of the training weeks, you might go from an RPE 7, RIR 3, they kind of correlate there, to an 8, to a 9, to a 10. Sometimes people do half RPE or like RPE 8.5, etc. I don't see how you figure out how you do 1.5 reps, but nevertheless, that's what people do. And then you might deload after that. So what it does, it basically gives the trainee a tool to not go at 100% intensity for the duration of the training mesocycle. They can gradually cycle up in intensity so they can hit their maximal recoverable volume, then overreach, deload, recover, adapt, and get bigger, get stronger. So some of the issues with RPE and RIR is, now first thing I'll start off with is I still use it, but I need to use it for the right client. So one mistake that I made recently when I was analyzing my own training programs I'd written in the past is that I had reps in reserve in a program for a beginner, which is crazy because a beginner doesn't actually know their proximity to failure at any point in time. It's very, very hard to gauge. For a lot of people, in fact, it requires a coach and a fair bit of practice and effort to actually achieve a decent RIR. So what I recommend that people do is, rather than giving it to a beginner or even an intermediate lifter, I would recommend that you stick with advanced athletes in the body composition realm. The reason why a beginner can't, what I've seen with a beginner when actually executing RIR was it was very useful for gauging how hard they could actually work and how much further I could push them. So in terms of using it in a coaching environment, beginner, it can be a good tool to see if people are actually cheating or not. So cheating is like a better word, not putting in as much effort as they could. So to use another analogy, another story, I had a client who, this guy had he still is a client, but he has legs on him like they're tree trunks. His calves are ridiculous. I want half of them. And he was doing a leg press workout. Now, leg press is an exercise that you can push pretty hard. Like, it's very, very stable. It uses the quadriceps, the glutes, and adductors, etc. So you get a lot of muscles involved. You can output a ton of force. And he did a leg press set. He was doing like sets of 10 or so. He had like not an incredible amount of weight. I don't remember it, and I won't humiliate him here. But basically, he was doing sets of 10. And I was like, how hard is that? And I was like, he's like, oh, really, really tough. And I looked at him. I'm like, you're not sweating. You're not angry at the world. You are showing no real signs that you're actually working super hard. And this was in a semi-private environment in the commercial gym. So I couldn't watch every single set. So I sat down next to him, and I said, look, what we're going to do is we're going to do a set where I'm going to take you 1 rep shy of failure. So what's going to happen there is, you just keep going until I think you're about 1 rep shy of absolute technical failure. I wouldn't say absolute muscular failure. I was like, he can't complete the range of motion or something like that. So away he went. And he got up to 30 or so reps before I got bored and walked away. So he was basically, because he was a beginner in the weight training environment, he was limiting himself. He was scared about putting as much force as he could. And when we saw it, he was definitely capable of a hell of a lot more with someone. So one of the uses of reps in reserve for the beginner or an intermediate is actually teaching someone how to push themselves to a higher level, because they will need to do that at some point. Another client that I'm currently working with, he was squatting a weight for like 6 to 8 reps and like really complaining about how hard it was. Oh, it's heavy, stuff like that. And I was like, all right, cool. Now, this next workout, what we're going to do is it's going to work shy of failure. I'll just tell you when you need to stop your sets. You just concentrate on pushing. I'll concentrate on watching and making sure you don't die. And sure enough, he went from 6 to 8 reps all the way up to 15 reps in the next workout. So a lot of the time, the best use of reps in reserve and RPE is to actually use it as a coach when you're working with your beginner and intermediate clients to actually give them that push to see how much they're capable of. When you're working with advanced clients, it's the opposite way around, particularly if they're into hypertrophy or into powerlifting type training or power building. You use RPE and RIR because these people know how far away they can get from failure. They're pretty good. And what you need to do a lot of time for these people is to hold them back. A lot of time people will, when they're really in the training, they've been doing it for a long time, they want to push their body to the limit each and every time. There is a problem with that because what happens over a period of time is if they do that for 4 weeks straight, their ability to recover from the fatigue that they're inducing from their exercise program is going to be going down the toilet. So we need to make sure that we can do that for periodization. So guys, what most people thought would be me taking a dump on rate of perceived exertion and reps in reserve isn't really the case. I think it's a bad idea to program for people who are beginners and individuals who are training by themselves. Just work on progressive overload through other means, making sure intensity is going up, etc. As long as they're progressing, it's doing pretty well. If you're in a personal training environment and you're coaching a client, use RPE to create a true gauge of how strong and how fit and how hard someone can actually push themselves. And don't be afraid if you're doing one workout, if you're taking them very close to failure, it's okay. If someone's a beginner or intermediate, they're going to be nowhere near their maximum recoverable volume anyway, and they're not going to output enough force to actually cause themselves damage. And then with advanced clients and in powerlifting and bodybuilding and ones who really love training, use RPE and RIR to manage fatigue, to mitigate excessive training volume, and to allow them to build up training stress over time, to recover, adapt, and then go again. So guys, that's how you can use RPE and RIR in your personal training business.